Okay, so for the first question, the first quote that I chose was on page 143. It's the beginning of chapter 8 in part 3. It's when Dante came over to give Ari a bath, and Ari said, I guess Dante said, "I won't hurt you," and Ari said, "You've already hurt me. That's what I wanted to say. Those are the words that entered my head. Those are the words I wanted to slap him with. Those words were mean. I was mean." And the reason why I chose this passage is because it was the first time when Ari, I believe, if I remember right, the first time when Ari cried in front of Dante. And I think that just shows how vulnerable Ari is and how much he doesn't like being vulnerable. It's just like he repeats the word, he repeats the word words, and like he knows that the word hurt is very powerful, and like he doesn't feel right for using the word hurt. I think he feels like we could use a different word. And he says the word slap as if he wanted just to like hit Dante in the face and just be like, "Don't do this to me." And like, this is how I'm going to express that you don't do this to me. But like, he knows that it's a mean word to say. And he hates that he thought that he wanted to do that. And I feel like it's just kind of how the more angrier that Ari feels represents how helpless he is, because he's just on the cusp of independence, and then he has it all just wiped away in an instant, especially by someone who is he's very close with. And it's not easy for him because he's injured, and like he wants to be comfortable in his own skin, but he doesn't feel like he is, especially because he's in adolescence where he's trying to figure out his own place in the world, but he doesn't want to seem so vulnerable and like having to rely on everybody. And it's because he's hurt and like injured, and so he has to show that vulnerability and that helplessness in order for him to grow as a person. Okay, so the second quote I chose was when Ari found Julian, the guy who was one of them who beat up Dante. And when he found Julian, they started beating each other up, and it's on page 314. And Ari says, "He took a swing at me. That's all I needed. I just went to it. His nose was bleeding. That didn't stop me. It didn't take long before he was on the ground. I was just saying things to him, cussing at him. Everything was a blur, and I just kept going at him." I think that the words that really create an intense emotional feel to this passage is just that he didn't stop. He's just fueled by adrenaline and like anger, and like he was just like everything was a blur. And so that also shows how much he just wanted to get his anger out. It was just only one hit. He said that was all I needed to to start that anger. And it's just the way Ari presents himself in the beginning of his interaction with Julian makes it seem like he is the perfect representation of a young adult, who's a young boy or man who's growing up and trying to find his identity. But by beating Julian up, it like sets back his growth. It like starts another cycle of like silence and violence and just unhealthy coping mechanisms, which is not something that is healthy for someone who is trying to go through adolescence and figure out what they want to do with their life, basically. So for question 2, I think that the secrets Ari learn are about love and communication and masculinity and homosexual discrimination, and how there's so many like unwritten rules that people have that he has yet to learn. Like for love, he didn't know that love was something so powerful that can shape him to who he is today. And for communication, like he's just been so silent and just reserved. He doesn't like talking about his feelings. But then the second that he starts to let go of that and talk about his feelings, he feels some kind of like release, basically. And like there's also secrets with like gay discrimination. Like I don't think he knew before. I mean, like, you know about his aunt Ophelia and her wife Franny, but before that I don't think he really knew how much discrimination there is against gay men in our world. And I think that's something that hit him in the face very quickly and very hard, and it's something that's not like, it's difficult to deal with, especially someone with like who got affected by it with Dante, who he's in love with, and it's just hard for him to deal with. I think that Ari he knows when it's okay to keep a secret and when it's not, is like when it doesn't hurt somebody in the long run. Like when Dante's mom said that she loved Ari in the hospital for like saving Dante, Ari chose to keep that a secret. I think at the point in the novel he didn't really know what to do with that information, but he didn't think that it would really affect his relationship with Dante. So it's just kind of like a depending on what the secret is, it also reflects on if you should tell somebody or not. Because like being gay, that's a secret that is you can't really keep. I mean, it's going to come out at some point, or it's just going to be very difficult to hold in. And so you have to learn at some point when a secret is big enough that you have to tell somebody. Like if it's just something like a white lie, like no one's going to really care about that. But if it's something big like I'm gay, then you have to be able to be like strong enough to tell somebody about it. And for part 3 of question 2, I think that Ari learns how love can change a person and like let them know how they find out who they truly are. He learns about the secret of communication and how vital it is for people to be clear with each other and talk through everything. The whole book centers around people who keep secrets from each other, and like a part of Ari's fascination with Dante is how Dante is just so open and like willing to talk about anything, and how Dante seems like he can't lie to Ari. It's just like not part of him. And like even his father keeps secrets, and like the secret about Bernardo and their family, that secret is also something big enough that you can't hold behind. Like it will drive somebody crazy just to keep that secret. And so it was just like, here I have my notes on the side, but he learns the secret of his own identity in the end. He thinks he's been trying to figure out the secrets of the universe and what's wrong with him, but now that he's been in love with Dante since the moment he met, he figures out that everybody was right about Dante and that everybody is fighting their own war. Lying in bed with Dante, Ari feels free and unafraid for the first time. He thinks about telling mom like how he is ashamed of it and how other people would be ashamed, like his peers would be ashamed of him liking guys. But it also, like when he finally tells people and he finally accepts the fact that he is in love with Dante, it becomes like a message to the readers that like keeping secrets is unhealthy, and it's better to like tell the truth and to accept one's identity and not to hide it, because staying secret or keeping secrets can lead to a lot of anger and violence, and just speaking the truth lets people feel more at ease and happier in the world. But going off of that, the final secret that he uncovered, which is what helped him figure out his place in the world, was that the fact that he was in love with Dante, and how when he really like figured that out, he just felt so much happier. He showed the readers that no matter who you are, if you know what your heart truly wants, then you'll be okay in the end. Okay, so for the third question, I chose a quote on page 22. I think it was chapter 1, I think it's part 5. But Dante says, "Boys, I watched them. I studied them. In the end, I didn't find most of the guys that surrounded me very interesting. In fact, I was pretty disgusted. Maybe I was a little superior, but I didn't think I was superior. I just didn't understand how to talk to them, how to be myself around them. Being around other guys didn't make me feel smarter. Being around other guys made me feel stupid and inadequate. It was like they were a part of this club and I wasn't a member." I think what Ari is referring to in the last part of the quote, like, and how they were in some club and he wasn't a member, is how all the other guys that he knew of were most likely heterosexual, and that deep down he didn't know how to fit in with them. I think the reason why he struggled with like his place in the world and like why he felt there was something wrong with him is because he didn't know anybody else who was homosexual. He felt like he needed somebody else to confide in who was also gay, and like I think that's what drew Dante and Ari so close together, is because they both didn't know that they were homosexuals, but by being around each other, they finally were able to freely express themselves. And I think it's interesting that he said that being around other guys didn't make him feel smarter, it made him feel stupid and inadequate. And it's just kind of referring back to how toxic masculinity really governs how adolescents grow up. They feel as though they have to be this like tough macho guy, and especially for Mexican American families where being homosexual is like really discriminated against, he felt like he couldn't fit in with other guys. Like he wanted to, as much as he wanted to, he wasn't appealed by straight men. He felt like there was something else that was to him that didn't quite make him normal, as I would say. But I think that what really like hints at how Ari was heterosexual was how, or homosexual, was how he studied boys. He was intrigued by them. He watched them. He wanted to know more about them. But the more that he studied straight men, the more he found out that he didn't like them. The more that he like found out that he wasn't attracted to them at all. But then when he is around Dante, who is someone who's just starting to discover his sexual orientation, he feels at ease with him, and he feels like he can be like himself. He doesn't feel like he has to put on a disguise like he would with other boys his age. And I think that part of what really draws them in together is just the fact that they both can express themselves and understand each other very freely, and there's no judgment in between them. Like, even though they had some problems later on in the book after Dante moved away to Chicago, they still were able to come back and be great friends in the end. But yeah, those are my answers for this question.